Hello, and welcome to Finding Your Superpower in the Time of COVID. Here with us, we have all of the Nichols College Sport Management faculty members. I'm Brittany Jacobs, and I've been at Nichols for 3 years. Tim?
My name is Timothy Liptrap, and I've been at Nichols for 19 years. Charlie?
I'm Charlie Robert, and I've been at Nichols for over 25 years. Andrew?
I'm Dr. Andrew Smith. I've been at Nichols since 2015. Brian?
Hi, I'm Brian Wendry. I've been at Nichols for 3 years as an adjunct and 3 years full-time. Priscilla?
I'm Priscilla Alfaro Barrantes, and I've been at Nichols.
Nichols College has had a sport management program since 1999. We were one of the earlier adopters in the New England region. Currently, Nichols Sport Management Program holds about 23% of the student population at our college. Our program has grown into many different facets. We look at professional sports, we look at coaching, we look at clubs and recreation, we look at youth sports. Whatever a student might have an interest in, we're happy to work with. So in our program, we're a very practical, business-oriented program. So a student comes to us and we work on the business side of sports, and that's what our expertise is. Charlie, you want to pick up from there?
Sure, thank you, Tim. So we go from theory to practice, basically, in our department. So from in-person to remote, to hybrid, to high flex, to no in-person, then all remote, the winds of COVID were swirling through higher education. No major was exempt, obviously, and Spencer Johnson's book, Who Moved My Cheese, had us all playing the roles of Sniff and Scurry. Student athletes were moved from practice and playing seasons to one-on-one lifting sessions. And it's one thing to be strong when change comes along. It's another to be nimble and agile, to be resilient with the winds of change. So driving through the key for two, or dodging through the box to score in the upper far corner, or zigging and zagging to step in for the pick six, all take awareness and flexibility to successfully make it through the maze. They say weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. Well, the diversity of experiences and interest in our sport management team really allowed us to leave the hemming and hawing, Spencer Johnson once again, to others to head off for the cheese. As a team, we were mindful of students showing a bit of fragility, and so we took our 5-cent deposit in cans, I can, success, and we provided experiential opportunities. We jumped into application in a variety of ways. A tweak here or a turn of the dial there brought adaptation and coping within a unique time. The compass was no longer at true north, so northeast and northwest would be suitable. So I'll share one example. With my classes, I stress that A is for application, that they should strive for the application. The other letters are just simply grades, noting their effort. One example that we normally share in our department is we have an annual millennial event. We bring in alumni the first week in November, and we invite them to share what's going on in the sport industry, share their insights, their experiences. We want to keep our students current, and even shadow days, which wasn't possible this fall. The semester, the event was conducted by a sport event management class for their grade. The cheese was right there. Sometimes it's easier to see with fresh eyes when we're outside the scope of normalcy. The practical application was guiding them through the maze behind the scenes with regard to responsibilities of running an event. So Kuzers and Posner remind us, their leadership authors, remind us model the way, inspire shared vision, challenge the process, enable others to act. And one might say that's a capital M, capital I, capital C, capital E. Again, going back to Sniff and Scurry, the mice. Spencer Johnson tells us, savor the adventures, enjoy the change, and be ready to change again and again. And so now I'll turn it over to Brian to talk a little bit more about his experiences.
Yeah, thank you, Charlie. That was awesome. Yeah, one of the areas we had great success was corralling guest speakers. Using Zoom, obviously, gave us an excuse where we could invite people from far-flung places and not have to ask them to drive. So we had people from New Orleans, the Pelicans, Boston Celtics, from Rhode Island, the International Tennis Hall of Fame, UConn, New Orleans Saints, the Big Ten Network. So all these folks were able to Zoom into our classes, whereas, in the past, we might not have been able to lock them in. And the students actually stayed pretty well engaged. They typed questions into the chat, they even sent a few, emojis here and there, and stayed awake arguably better than if they were actually sitting in the class. So all in all, the guest speakers turned out really well with Zoom. So moving on to internships, we'll hand that over to Priscilla.
In our program, we have about 262 majors and a little bit over 100 minors, and all of them do internships. So you can imagine how stressful it was when in the spring, like in 2020, they started all emailing me, my internship was canceled. Plus, those who had already secured internships for the summer said, oh, my internship was canceled. Yeah, it was very stressful. So we have to adapt and overcome, right? So what we have to do is look at internal partnerships first, and what the students wanted, what they want to do in their future careers, and then what the skills they had. So for example, internally, if a student came to us and said, I would like to work later on recruiting athletes, or I would like to work in finance for research. So we look into our athletic department, but also other departments like admissions, finance, and hospitality, the alumni office, and see if those students could do internships there. And we were successful in doing that. Actually, some of the coaches and some people in the meetings were very happy to have those students. They were able to apply the skills and gain more experience that later on they're going to be able to apply in the sport industry. Then externally, we're able to talk with some local companies here in New England, especially in Boston area. And I had a few meetings with them trying to show them that our students could still provide value when it comes to internships, even they could do all remotely. And the especially startup companies, were really open to that. Some of them, there is a company in particular that comes to mind, is Protein Powerball. They not only open an internship for our program, but also work in consulting projects with our classes. So our students in several of our courses do consulting projects for different companies. That means that our client, we call it our client, comes to our class and says, we have this problem. We want to recruit more members. We want to increase our social media presence, etc. And our students are with the task of coming up with ideas and how they can help with that. Also, we have at Nichols, we are mostly an undergrad institution, but we are able to identify students who are already in upper level courses, and they are already taking the lower level courses, so we hire them as a teaching assistant or research assistant. They have to have a minimum of a B+, I believe, in the course to help us with the course, but the students are really looking for those opportunities. And then and the students who are in the classes really reach out to them for help, and they see them as mentors. That also give them, then we also include the students in some conference presentations as well. And in many of our experiences like the ones I just described, not only internships, and they also look at, or they complete different certifications that they can add on their resume. So my point is, yes, we had to adapt when it came to the internships, not only by looking at remote internships, but also looking at other ways that students could add to their resume that practical experience that is so important when it comes to. We're going to move on to Professor Andrew Smith.
So another way that we've really tried to enhance the experiential learning in our program is by incorporating more of the case method and case studies, particularly in the senior seminar, which is our capstone course. We have had students not just read existing case studies, but write their own case studies, practice teaching those existing case studies to their peers, and presenting research on their original case studies to the campus-wide community. And then as an added bonus, we've tried to take interested students to national competitions, including the College Sports Research Institute, and we even host our own case study competition on Nichols campus for regional schools. However, none of those were possible with COVID restrictions. So we did have to get a little bit more creative. The solution that we came up with in the summer was to partner with a regional organization, the Pioneer Institute, who sponsored a virtual case study for some of our students where they could submit their paper electronically and present via Zoom to a panel of judges. Come the fall, we actually built on that. Pioneer sponsored another competition, and we made that the final project for sports senior seminar students so that they could, in groups, practice an original case study, still present to a third party. And even better, the prompt that they wrote on was actually about COVID restrictions in a regional business sense. So it was really applicable and really relevant. I think what we did was take those difficult circumstances and create a new learning opportunity for our senior students to try and react in real time. And looking forward to the spring semester, we're going to do the same with our in-house case study competition. We've turned that into a virtual competition, and we hope that will also encourage more attendance from regional students, and again, be the final project for our sports seminar students. So turning the use of technology towards supporting our own students, new and prospective, I'll let Tim talk a little bit more about advising and recruiting.
So one of the challenges that we have in our day-to-day life before COVID was to advise 260 students. Each one of us has between 35 and 40 advisees. We have to talk to them about careers and internships and placements and all these different pieces, and it takes a lot of time. Well, they were, prior to COVID, they're restricted to essentially our hours, the hours that we work in our offices, and that's how they have to find us. Well, looking at our superpowers and looking at our team, and there were 6 of us, and we figured out how to do it and to support our students through this, is that we were able to start virtual hours like many of you have. And what we found was that there are great benefits to that. We were able to screen share with them. We do a lot of one-on-ones. They were flexible with time. What the other folks that appreciated it quite a bit was our coaches and our alumni and those folks that we were working with, not only on the recruitment side, but on the retention side. Whenever there was an issue, using the Zoom and our meetings, we're able to meet with them one-on-one. And touching back on that, Charlie, touching back on your superpowers, we were able to do that. So with that said, I would like to turn that over and start talking about the summer courses that we needed to do. So let me give the intro, and then Professor Wendry, if I could turn it over to you for a minute or two. So the college had a financial issue, and the question was, how do we get those students who applied to us prior to COVID, so November, December, January, February, and make sure that they come in and don't melt between the time that they accepted us and the time that we started the classes. So what we did is we created a very unique late spring summer program. And Professor Wendry, if I could turn that over to you, we'll just go from there and have you describe it, and then we'll talk about results.
Sure. So what was great about this is we were really able to meet the kids on their own home turf. Now, sometimes that's a little scary, as they're sitting in their beds or doing what they're doing. I remember these are high school kids, most of these students. So yes, we came into their homes, during COVID. We started when they were still finishing up high school, so we overlapped with the end of their high school season, high school semester. And then took them through the summer. So our first class here, we had 27 students. Then our second class, we had approximately 23 students. And the last class, by July, August, it dropped off to 13 students. But that first class, we had all 27 students come back in the fall. So we had 100% retention out of that class. And it really was fantastic. A great way to meet the students when they showed up. In the fall, they knew some of us, and all in all, it was just a huge success.
So if I could talk about the nuts and bolts.
Yep.
So what we did was we went out to everybody who was accepted to the college and offered them a package that said, if you give us your $500 deposit, we will give you a free college course, your first one, starting in essentially April of your senior year in high school. And we offered it to everybody who deposited with us and those who wanted to do a pre-deposit. So Professor Wendry, Brian, you said that we had 27 kids in the first one, and then we were only one of about 5 or 6 courses that kicked off at the same time with all the other departments. And we were able to continue this. And it was incredible because we saw our melt not be what the traditional summer melt was. Now, all of us on the screen were involved in that class. So the students who saw us, they got to see each one of our expertises. And by the time they came back to us in the fall, they were able to identify with us. They were able to talk with us. and we understood them, and they understood us a little bit more, and they weren't as scared to see us in the fall classes when we were in person. Okay, so with that said, that was a great success. And Professor Windry, Brittany, Professor Jacobs, can you talk about our new courses, specifically the video analysis course?
I certainly can. So one great thing that Dr. Liptrap mentioned was that those summer courses really allowed us to find the fit, allowed the students to find the fit with the faculty member that had similar interests, or to find the fit with an external member that they'd met through guest speakers, et cetera, that might be a good fit for them. So when we bring them to campus, looking for that fit doesn't end. We start building courses around their interests, and we really make sure that we're asking the students, what is it that they need and what is it that they want, in order to ensure that we're always on target with their interests and also the interests and needs of their career pathway. So where are they going to get jobs at the end of their sport management degree program? So one thing that our students have really been asking for recently, a lot of our students are interested in coaching. So they want to better understand sport video analysis. So we actually rolled out a new course, or will roll out a new course next semester, called Sport Video Analysis. And students will learn to do things like code video, learn to break it down, and then use that video to actually create practice plans or to modify practice plans in order to improve skills of specific players. We have a great partnership with our athletic department, and we actually have our head men's basketball coach, teaching that class for us. So it's the first time he'll be teaching a class, but his expertise is certainly in sport video analysis. And then, of course, our students get super excited when the head men's basketball coach is teaching this class in which he is an expert. So we're able to really take the internal partnerships, the internal expertise of the people that we have on campus, and build classes that really meet student needs. It's been a great success. In addition to that, kind of expanding beyond courses, we've taken the opportunity to use COVID as a jumping off point. We've decided that we're not just going to remain stagnant, even though these are challenging times. We're going to go ahead and take risks and make changes to our curriculum and to our program. So during this time, we actually have developed 2 entirely new concentrations, sport marketing and content creation, and sport sales and strategy. We also developed a new certificate program, which is called sport coaching and team development. So during this time of COVID, we said that, our students are asking for things, prospective students are asking for things. We can't just sit here and say, this is hard, we're not going to do anything at this time. Instead, we decided to take some risks, and it seems like it's paying off. On the website, our sport management properties have seen 3,000 times the traffic that they had before our new concentrations were launched last week. So we're really excited to bring those new concentrations to fruition and really to highlight Principle 8, educational innovation with COSMA. Ultimately, why does this all matter? All of these different pieces, finding our superpower, finding the fit for each of our students is incredibly important. It's allowed us to have an all-time high enrollment in the fall of 2020, despite COVID-19. So that high enrollment, as Professor Alfaro Barantes mentioned, is 262 sport management students, and that's 23% of our student body. So it represents very little melt, and it means that we're retaining students at an incredibly high rate. This is important not only for our program, but also for our institution, because we make up such a large portion of the student body. We can also see this reflected in a smaller subset with those summer courses that we ran. 100% of those students were registered in the fall. And now it's really important to know that 100% of those students weren't sport managers. So we were helping to retain other students that were coming into different degree programs as well, by using those different skills, using our different superpowers, using all of the great strengths of the people that we have around us.
So good morning, everyone. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Kizzy Thomas, and I want to welcome you to Finding Your Superpower in the Time of COVID-19. And to answer any questions, we have Priscilla Alfaro, Andrew Smith, and Brian Windry here with us. And I'd like for you to direct your attention to the chat box, which I'll post the instruction. 1 second. I'm having an issue here. Okay, sorry about that. And to ask any questions, I ask that you type your name and your affiliation as indicated in the chat box. Sorry. So here we go. First question. Sure, Colleen.
Can I just raise my hand?
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I'm faster at this than putting it in the chat.
Okay, no problem.
Hi, everybody. I think I almost know everyone here, or I've at least recently met. So I found it really interesting, and I'd like to hear a little more about how you pulled off that class that you taught with the high school students and how that worked for retention. Can you talk about like how you started that, when it started, and the follow through with, because I think you all were a part of that in some way, I think is what I got out of the presentation. So I would just love to hear a little more about how that worked.
Yeah, I think Brian and Tim really led that. And then the rest of us just tried to support as we could. So Brian could probably talk a little bit more about the logistics and maybe even open up some of the pitfalls. I don't know how many things you want to air out.
Unmute yourself, Brian.
Thank you. Yes, well, one, it did work very well. You know, it's something really our admissions and our Dean of Academic Affairs have been pushing, you know, for a while. And so we grabbed the kids and, you know, we did numerous sessions. We did one at the end of the spring semester, then a couple through the summer, and the attendance got progressively worse. So what we found, you know, the August class was terrible, you know, so it just had gone too long. But the spring class and the early June classes were very good. And so what we did is it started off, if you had put down a deposit, you know, at Nichols College, you got a free class. So the first round of students were very motivated, you know, and they were awesome. And it was really good. And what we did is we had each professor in the department come in and teach a class. So you were in the class for 8 weeks and you met 6 professors plus 2 or 3 other guests. So it was very guest speaker driven. And that kind of really engaged the students. You know, then group work, you know, we put them in breakout rooms. We had them do projects and presentations. We had them go out and interview people in the community. So there was no textbook, all open source resources. So it was really kind of engaging. Yeah, and I'm not sure. Yeah, it was just, we kind of kept them moving. So it was, again, there's no textbook and just a lot of people and a lot of talking.
Okay, and here comes the $1 million question. Were you all compensated for teaching that class?
So I was, you know, because I was running it with also our department chair, but I don't think Priscilla and Andrew, they just popped in, no. But,
no.
We were guest speakers, you know, for one lecture, sport marketing. I don't remember. Andrew, you did sport and society?
I did sport communication day or week, you know, but also, okay, so I just had a book come out in January and this was in the summer, right? So I could talk a little bit about my book to some potential incoming students, right? Like we didn't capture all of these students, but at least they had applied and deposited. So they were seriously considering, you know, they got to see not just 1 or 2 professors, but kind of get a sense of all of us. And I had at least a couple of them email after that class and say, hey, I really liked that, you know, could you tell me more? Could you tell me where I can get your book? Or I had one student who really wants to be a sports writer. And so, you know, gave me a link to the high school paper he'd been writing for and asked if I could give him some tips or some feedback, you know, and we got him. I know we got him. So I think it was a really good chance to engage. And I'll give away one class for free, just one, Nichols. But, you know, no, it was fun, I think, for all of us.
Colleen, you started a trend. We're breaking the rules here. So I also wanted to pipe in. Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Maggie Tudor. I'm at the University of Tampa. I really appreciated your presentation. And in particular, I was curious if you could kind of explain or expand a little bit more on the case studies that you did. I think I picked up on the fact that you gave the case studies and then you tried to make it somewhat like they would be going to a competition and they would either record it or do it live. I wasn't quite clear on that. So could you expand a little bit? I think it's a great project.
Yeah, so when I took over the seminar a few years ago, we kind of moved it more towards case method, just because we thought that was a better fit for our students than independent research projects. And we had, gradually started trying to do more case competitions then, right? If we're practicing some case method, especially for seniors, whether we take them somewhere like the CSRI or the SEVT, or we started hosting one at Nichols for, not a national audience, but we get some good regional schools with strong sport management programs, so we had that kind of set up. Yeah, and then sort of the bottom falls out with this, and we couldn't really do public presentations. So I did not have a good answer in the heart of the spring. So we just did our case studies and presented them to each other instead of doing like a public presentation and trying to get in any competitions. But by the summer, and I can't take credit for this, I think maybe it was Priscilla and Brittany that had formed a partnership with the Pioneer Institute. So like a third party kind of think tank in Boston who wanted to support a competition. They were open to doing it virtually. And so we had a few students who wanted to get in on it in the summer because there was a cash prize and low competition because not that many people enrolled for a summer case study competition, oddly enough, right? But by the time we got into the fall and we knew the format, the modality we were going to be living in, at least for this semester, we could partner with Pioneer again. We could set up a virtual competition. All of the students in the seminar sections, were in groups and had to compete in that competition. And then we were able to get other participants from like UMass and Eastern Connecticut and some good schools around us. So we still got to practice case studies, do an independent case study, be part of a competition, even though it was virtual. And I think, the students still presenting to people who aren't their professor, like getting feedback from judges that aren't grading them is really valuable. And those judges have cooler titles than me anyway. They have real sport industry jobs. So I think they really still liked it. None of our students placed in the top 3 and got any cash out of it, but they got academic credit and some good experience. And the case that they came up with, the Pioneer Institute, was really specific to Worcester and the pandemic. So, I mean, I would imagine a lot of those students will take that into job interviews, hopefully May, June, and July, and be able to say, yeah, here was something we didn't expect. Here were some problems that we had to encounter, and here's the way that, at least in our class, we kind of came up with solutions.
Okay, thank you for that. We now have Janet from University of St. Joseph.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I want to say thank you for your presentation, because what a great idea, especially in this time when it's really hard to get students into the classroom. I wanted to ask though, was this format all online? Was any of it in person?
We rolled out a hybrid mix initially, so that students were broken into groups and could choose to attend once or one day a week if they wanted to, but also they could attend fully remote if they preferred. Our classrooms were set up sort of distanced enough that we could basically fit half a classroom if that many people chose to come in person, which surprisingly rarely happened.
Okay.
So that's how we pivoted in the spring, and that's what we rolled out in the fall. This semester, we tried to delineate between courses that will meet in person with small enough enrollment, big enough classroom spaces, courses that are fully remote. So like the sport management seminar we just said is fully remote because too many of these students are either staying home or trying to do other things. And then some were, well, the majority are still in this hybrid format where we're splitting our class into groups, inviting half of them each day, and seeing very few of them actually attend.
And which platform did you use for the ones that were online?
In terms of our learning management system?
Yes.
Okay, so we moved to Canvas 2 or 3 years ago. We had been in Moodle. We moved to Canvas. Zoom is our video conferencing. We had been using Adobe Connect before we changed to Canvas and Zoom at the same time, basically. Okay. We switched everything. And I think it's worked as well as it could given circumstances in terms of an LMS and a video conferencing platform.
Okay. And if I just may ask one other question is, did you go to schools around your area to promote this program? Like, how did you reach out to those students that came?
For the high school classes,
Yes.
that's more, I think Brian probably knows more about that than I do.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the first time, the students have been accepted, so the first run of that, they were accepted students already. And then we've had some, we've done some work with area high school students that we run that case study competition for high school students. So we have like a network. So it was, it was broadcast out to all of them. And we're doing another high school class in 2 weeks. We're doing a Tuesday night only high school class. So we are proactively trying to recruit high school students these days.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that.
Here is our colleague, Charlie Robert. She was the idea behind this project. The title is all her. Hi, Charlie.
Hi, Charlie. I have a question for you. This is a great concept. It doesn't surprise me that you all came up with something like this. So are the plans, even that hopefully, fingers crossed, we're post-pandemic, are you going to continue with some of these initiatives going forward, or are you going to, restructure them as the semesters kind of roll on?
I think the college really likes the high school class. It was really a success. A lot of those students, right, Brian? I don't know the percentage, but a lot of them are now our students. So when they came in the fall, they took Sport and Society instead of starting with the intro class. So for the high school class, I think we are going to continue. I mean, I don't see the college now saying we're not, because it's, we got a good, it was successful. And then for the case study competitions, Andrew, what do you think?
Yeah, if we can keep doing virtual competitions, it does save cost, right? Like, we don't want to make students pay any travel cost. We try to cover registration fees if it's one of those competitions anyway. So if we can keep up a virtual competition, or even do our Nichols competition virtually sometimes, and then those who are really motivated or really successful, if they want to travel to something more national like CSRI, I think that would be ideal. Like, if we can do a couple competitions in a semester, I think that's even better. So hopefully, for all of the challenges of this last year and the next one that we're about to face, in case anyone thought it was over yet, hopefully some new innovative, some good things will come out of it that we can keep, and keep using video conferencing software to allow us to do those things, even if we've given up snow days for the rest of our lives.
Yes, that's something we did.
Yeah.
Is this a concept you think your Nichols will try to use for other disciplines as well with the high school students? And the second question I have, Andrew, when you said that you decided to switch to case studies, what was the reasoning for making that decision initially?
Sure. With the high schools, we've done this since before I came to Nichols, which was 5 years ago. We had some of these partnerships, usually with a specific high school, and lots of times it was okay, what could your students use for high school credit that we can offer, and let them come to Nichols for a night, or let them do this online. So I think, if anything, this will probably just expand, and maybe we'll be a little more intentional than reactionary. But I bet we keep doing this. In terms of the, switching the seminar to the case method, I think what we had found the first few years I was here, at least at Nichols, was our sports seminar, our senior seminar, the research projects just weren't great. And I think when we sort of looked more introspectively at ourselves, we realized, we're asking them to do things that we haven't really practiced very much. It was an independent project. We do a lot of group work. It was based on generating your own survey, conducting the survey, and then analyze the data. We didn't do that in a lot of classes. I know Priscilla, since we brought her on in sport marketing, has started that up again. But we had a lot of students who were really challenged to do several things they hadn't practiced a lot. And it didn't necessarily make them feel very confident leaving the seminar if they didn't love the research project that they came out with. I always tell them the story of when I was in middle school and I tried to do a science fair project and grow stuff in a petri dish and nothing grew, and here I am with this poster and these empty dishes, like standing in the middle of a gym. It was a little embarrassing. I didn't take a lot of science after that. I think there was some scar tissue that's never resolved, So, but the case method, we do a ton of group work. We do case studies, not just in sport management, but a lot of their business core classes do case studies. Their business law does mock trials and case studies, so it's just very familiar. And it feels like if we help them do something specific to sport, pretty deep, it's a semester long kind of thing usually, but in an environment that they're kind of comfortable with, it's better for them. And it's really better for our assessment too, because now we're measuring stuff that we have tried to do since they started in Intro to Sport Management, right? So our assessment data should be a little more accurate than just checking in on a research project if we haven't really introduced and reinforced those skills consistently.
Pam,
Okay.
I want to expand on what Andrew was saying on your first question. When I came to Nichols in fall of 2018, and we are the largest program on campus. We have almost 25% of our student population. So when we try an idea and it works, it seems that the college said, okay, so then other programs can now do it too. So that gives us an advantage because we can propose something because we are 6 of us, 6 faculty, and we have built this amount of students. So, if it works for us, then the college thinks, oh, it might work for other programs too. So it's an advantage for us, and I think also helps the other programs as well.
Okay, so we have time for 1 or 2 other questions. If not, I'll ask the presenters to give any last minute comments that they would have or like to share. So we do have Marlon Cook would like to ask a question.
Do you think the kids
Marlon?
learn more from virtual or face-to-face?
Do you think the kids learn more from virtual or face-to-face learning? I think.
So I can answer that. So, and then we can talk about it. But our population last year, when COVID hit us in the spring, I had a few conversations with our students because they were concerned that we were going to go all online, right? Because we are face-to-face campus. That's what we're known for. That's part of our brand. But when they find out, about Zoom and they're going to see us and they're going to be able to interact in breakout rooms, they were like, oh, I think I can actually do this. So the image before that happened was that online classes was just asynchronous, right? That's what they thought they were. So of course, I personally think that you cannot really replace the classroom because the interaction, if we're just here and all of them are muted and I call Andrew a question and then he unmutes himself and barely finish the sentence and mute himself again. And it's not the same as you are in the classroom when they just I tell them just shut out the answer and then just participate. So, but, the participation is not the same, but in terms of learning, I think it's been the same at least in the classes I teach. The students have been, in sport marketing, for example, they work with real clients, in consulting projects, and the quality of the work was actually better than it was when we were all in the classroom. For some reason, that was the case in the half of the spring semester. In the fall, I was really surprised. So wow, this was probably the best semester I had. Wow. So I cannot tell you why. I probably have to run a study for and ask the reasons, but I think it's been successful so far. Andrew, what do you think?
So a lot of the stuff that I teach is really research and writing based. And actually that's not as difficult to transition to online asynchronous or synchronous, so I'm privileged a little bit there. And I had a lot of experience with teaching in different modalities. I used to run the undergrad adult program here, so that was all different modalities. So I was fortunate there, and I think that just being comfortable in different learning environments and teaching skills that you can practice on your own, synchronously or asynchronously, and then get feedback from me, made it a little bit easier for me. But I'm going to throw it out to Charlie just because she got in a little bit late. But like we had said, this is really Charlie sort of pulled it together. And for this question in particular, if you don't know Charlie, who is our long-term athletic director at Nichols, and then didn't just like start teaching, like parachute a class and take an early retirement, like Charlie became a full-time faculty member after being an athletic director, which is awesome for our students, right? Because they get to see someone who had an actual job, and that means a lot of Charlie's classes are experiential and active, and one-on-one small groups, practicing skills that you're going to go apply, and then you have to pivot that to something that Charlie's probably never really done before in the middle of a semester. So I think you're best to probably speak and wrap a bow around this topic, Charlie.
We have two very popular practicums, the coaching practicum and the NCAA rules and regulations, and Charlie teaches both of those practicums. So Charlie, yes, all yours.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, in terms of our department, we tend to be trendsetters. We're not afraid to experiment a little bit. And if we fail, we're there to pick one another up. Whether anybody would pick us up, we're not really sure, but we'll pick one another up and make it work. And I think that sets a good tone and a good example for the rest of campus. The beauty of our department is there are great opportunities in terms of the remote, the mix, but there are great opportunities with regard to our practicums that need to be, sport is a people business, and that's not going to go away anytime soon. So to have to explore how we can get back to being in the people business, my coaching practicum, we had to shift gears a little bit in terms of maybe the credit hours or the number of hours they were really going to experience hands-on, but it helped me come up with another creative idea, and that was for them to develop a coaching handbook rather than just a hands-on experience. Now we've got a combined experience. So they're going to walk away with a coaching handbook because we meet once a week. We develop the theory, the philosophy, but yet then we go out into the field, and now we try to put both together. And so we're going to build this pyramid, one Lego at a time. And the same thing with NCAA rules and regs. We can learn in the classroom and we can learn remotely, but to get them in front of the high school students doing their PowerPoint presentation, this spring it'll be a little different. We'll do it remotely. So they'll have the protection of the computer, but there's nothing better than standing in front of 250 high school students, sharing what you know or don't know about NCAA rules and regs. And that experience alone for 25, 35, 40 minutes can't be replaced. And so the blend of both and finding a way to have that magic back again will be incredible. So this spring will be a little different, but I look forward to that in-person part. I think that's really, really, really important.
Okay. Priscilla or Brian, do you have any last minute comment before we close off our session? Or Andrew?
One thing that I can say is, because I coordinate our internship program now, Kim Liptrap did it for, 18 years or so. And but our students had the perception that because of COVID, there were not going to be that many internships. And what we're trying to do as a department is trying to get them out of the mindset that they can only get a job in, spectator sports, because we have seen a lot of new opportunities out there, right? The outdoors have become relevant again. Who knew, right? Motocross is a fun sport, fishing, like even hunting. So, COVID hit spectator sport hard. Maybe you cannot get your internship or your first job in baseball, but there are these other options. So it's been really an eye-opening for all of us as faculty, and we want to make sure that our students understand that view. It's, instead of working in basketball operations, now they're working with a company who wants to increase the membership of an app, right? So it's like you're still going to be working in sport, but it's totally different. And as a comparison, last spring when COVID hit, we had 36 students doing internships. And this semester so far, we have 33. So we basically have the same amount of interns, right? And that perception that you're not gonna get any internships, is something that we're really like working hard to get away from, because it's not true. It's just the internship look a little bit different, and the skills that you're gonna learn, you're still going to apply them later on when you maybe want to go and work in one of the traditional sports.
Brian, do you have any last minute comment?
Yeah, no, thank you. We just appreciate you guys having us. Yeah, I think this has been great. It's been a real pleasure. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for everyone for coming to this session. And I hope that we all take away something in this unprecedented time that we can implement, not only in our teaching, but as a student, it was difficult, but I find ways to be productive and try to stay engaged. And graduating this semester, I must say that trying to get a job in sports is tougher than I thought, especially in this time. So, but I remain positive and I hope for a positive outcome. So thanks again for having this session, and I've learned and I've listened, and I hope that to take away what I've learned here and to implement it into my future studies or my future aspirations from here on.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.